So I'm here with Don Mansfield. Don, you have a very interesting ministry, I guess. Tell me about it.
I work for NewDay Services for Children and Families. We help people in the court system that are going through family breakups and such as that, and we come alongside them and teach them skills to be able to navigate through the system and parent and co-parent to the best of their ability.
So how long have you been doing this?
I'm in my 16th year.
Okay, so obviously you've seen a whole lot of different people, different cases and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Can you give me some type of commentary on the results that you've seen? Has it been positive, or does everybody come through it and do better, or do some people not do so well? I mean, generally speaking.
Of course, anytime children go through family breakups, there's a negative impact on the children.
Right.
So therefore, we're trying to, at this point in time, we're trying to reduce the impact that is felt by the children when their parents go their separate ways.
Okay, now when you talk about family impact, are you talking specifically about married families, or, because there's a lot of different types of families these days?
Well, these are, when I say family loosely, I'm talking about two people that have children, whether a family unit, whether it's a marriage or a cohabitation or such as that. Any relationship that produces children is a family unit to a degree, and when those children that are born in whatever situation experience a break of that unit, then they're negatively impacted.
Okay, now you said that you're a faith-based organization.
That's correct.
It's a nonprofit.
That's correct.
But you're in the courts.
Yes.
So how does that work? I mean, I'm sure that somebody would like to say, well, what is this faith-based organization doing in the courts?
Well, our, that's the motivation for how we do things. We go into the court system not pushing religion, but taking care of people where they are, whether it's giving them a cup of coffee or a drink of water, and letting them know that they're not alone and somebody cares and they are a human being.
Okay, so therefore if I came into you and if I said, Don, I've got this problem, I'm not interested in any of your religion, can you help me?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good to know. So who comes to you most, who initiates a lot of the visits with you? Was it more the fathers, more the mothers?
It's both. People are sent to us. Sometimes they're court ordered to come see us.
Really? Okay.
Through classes. Sometimes their attorneys refer them to us. Sometimes they seek us out because they're overwhelmed and just need some assistance. And sometimes I'm up in the courthouse and I see someone that's upset, visibly upset, and I say, hey, do you need to talk? So it's kind of a combination of all of that. So
you have a ministry basically outside of a church. You have a ministry in the court.
That's correct.
That's very interesting. So do you spend your days there then?
Yes. I'm there 4 days a week, sometimes 5.
Do you have other people that go in with you, or is it just you primarily?
I'm the only one in the family courts. We have people at the Juvenile Justice Center and then out in the community in the Child Protective Services sector too. So
you've been doing this for 16 years.
Yes, I'm in my 16th year.
Okay. Are you alone? As far as throughout the state of Texas, are there other organizations like this doing this in other family courts, or is this primarily the only one that you're aware of?
To my knowledge, I'm the only one that's doing this nationwide.
Nationwide?
Nationwide.
And the judges look up to you?
We've been able to assist the judges, assist the courts in helping people, and that whether they look up to me or not, that would be for them to say.
Well, yeah, that's true. That was probably the poor way to phrase the question there. But you do get the judges and attorneys you've mentioned will recommend that people come and see you.
Yes.
So. This is pretty amazing. I want to say it's a privilege to actually sit with you, to know that you're the only one that you know of in this nation that's doing that. This is we need more people like this, taking their Christianity outside of the church. And I'm not talking about Christianity, taking their desire to see families work together well, often from a faith-based perspective, within the church. So if somebody wanted to start something like this, could they contact you to say, hey, Don, help me out?
I'm always willing to help people because, there's a lot of people that are hurting and a lot of people out there that just need someone to care.
Okay. So you have classes that you teach, and I know right now we're in a church auditorium. I don't know if you go to this church here or not.
No, I do not.
Okay, so you have a church that's actually saying, hey, this is a good thing. We're going to open up our facility so that you can do this.
Right.
And they don't care if the people that come in here are members of their church or...
No, absolutely not.
That's great. Tell me a little bit about the class and the structure that you have here.
Okay. This particular class that I was teaching today is a 4-hour co-parenting class. That's a family stabilization class that gives both moms and dads tools to be able to work through the conflict, put the conflict that they're having aside to be able to parent their children in whatever set of circumstances they're found in.
Okay. Do you teach other classes then? You said this class. Do you have other classes that you teach?
Yes, I teach an anger resolution class for people that are dealing with the emotions of anger or have had struggles with anger. And then we teach a focus class called Families Offering Children Unfailing Support. Is for moms and for dads.
Okay. Do you have, because right now you're dealing with the problems.
Right.
Do you teach any type of classes that might help avoid the problems? Because we know that there's a lot of things, a lot of times that divorces are unnecessary. And this is even something that Supreme Court Justice Leah Ward, she was going to at one time possibly be a Barack Obama appointee or nominee for the Supreme Court. But she saw her brother go through this stuff and ended up committing suicide. And she and there's another family therapist out of the University of Minnesota, I believe, they were talking about this issue. And what they found is that in about 40% of the cases, there were what they termed unnecessary divorces. These were people already deep into the process, and they said, wait a minute, somebody, maybe sometimes both of them, wanted to get off of the divorce path and say, can we reconcile? Is there something that we can do? But sometimes because of the attorneys involved, they would say, well, if you do this, it's going to be giving them ammunition, or it may give you a bad outcome in the trial or whatever it's going to happen. But do you have any type of a class that might help keep people together?
Of course, one of the things in interacting with people, whether they come on their own or that, one of the things I ask, is there any way to reconcile? Is there any possibility of trying to reconcile? If there is, and of course, then we focus on developing and rebuilding that relationship, which I've done for years and years on either an individual basis or now particular classes. We don't do particular classes because every relationship is different, and it's hard to just say, okay, everybody go through this and you'll be fine. What we need to do is find out what the issue is and then focus them on helping to rebuild that, or if it's needed, to refer out to people that can help them to reestablish and work through the problems that are destroying the relationship. And the good part is, of course, sometimes if people say, hey, we're here and we're going through this divorce, but we're not really sure whether we want a divorce, a lot of times the courts will send them to me and say, hey, this is a resource they could help you to reestablish your relationship.
Wow, that is tremendous. Do the courts put a stay on the legal hearings then? Because, and the reason I ask that is because there have been some proposals, these two people that I mentioned, they had a proposal that maybe instead of having the attorneys get involved, because, and this was a judge saying this, said that the attorneys inflame situations. The attorneys often create conflict or bring up bad emotions when they didn't exist. And instead of helping to bring some type of healing, they actually they make matters worse. And what they were suggesting is that maybe instead of having the attorneys get involved, because somebody says, I'm going to get a divorce, I'm going to see an attorney. And the attorneys, like a carpenter with a hammer, everything becomes a nail, Or if maybe the attorney only has a saw, everything becomes a saw. We're going to, whatever. But the idea of what they were saying is that if we can keep the legal profession out of it at the beginning, have maybe a pre-notification to a spouse, I'm not in a good position right now. Something is going on with our marriage. This is the pre-legal notification that they could actually save a lot of marriages, because sometimes marriages have these conflicts because people don't have the skills.
Well, of course, when I get people, I mean,
obviously,
so I can't speak to that. I know that when, if there's an opportunity, someone's verbalized, hey, we don't know whether we're going to get a divorce, a lot of times the courts will say, hey, there's always time to get a divorce. You can go see someone, and we're happy to let you see if you can do that. So I've seen that quite a bit over the years in that, but as far as stays or whatever, I can't really address that.
See, in our Texas Family Code, it says that the judge may order counseling. I've never seen it happen that much, to be quite honest with you.
No, I have.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, because what I've seen so far is that basically one person says that, like under insupportability, that person can petition for divorce. The judge may grant a divorce. The judge grants a divorce 100% of the time, no questions asked. I've never seen a judge, never once have I seen or heard of a judge say, sorry, divorce denied, even though the judge may deny the divorce. Never once have I seen that. But at the same time, the Texas Family Code says the judge may order counseling if the marriage is not insupportable, which is a judgment call on his part.
Right.
So I would love to see judges say, if somebody says our marriage is insupportable, the judge would say, prove it. What type of counseling have you gone through? Have you tried to reconcile your marriage? But so I'm really glad to hear, and to be honest with you, I'm a little bit surprised to hear that they're doing this here.
Well, I mean, when they've mentioned it, that courts are going to say, hey, there's always time to get divorced. You can, why don't you see if you can fix this if they're not sure in that, so I mean, I've seen that, I wish it happened way more, but,
right.
By the time I see them, it's usually pretty late in the process.
Right, and that's what they're saying as well, that these two people that, instead of, why do we wait to the very end of the process and now somebody's, hey, maybe there's still a ray of hope. If you start earlier, instead of having a 2% chance of hope or something down here, you might have a 50% or 75%, or somebody say, help me, just do this.
Well, I mean, and late in the process, sometimes they're still salvageable, because
absolutely
we've had both moms and dads go through our focus class, and I remember one particular couple that said, hey, if we'd have had this classes earlier, we would never be here, and then they ended up reconciling and getting remarried. So
I'm glad that you've said that. I go to a church in Dallas, Watermark Church, and they started this group. It's called this type of a ministry, Reengage.
I'm very familiar with it.
Are you? And I mean, so this has been, Pastor Todd Wagner, he takes a very strong stand against divorce. He's teaching from the scripture, but he always talks about reconciliation. And they have seen couples that have, there was one couple there, I was at a conference and they were playing their tape. They talk about how, they were married and then divorced, and they married somebody else and then were divorced, and they married somebody else, and this is supposedly their third marriage. What they didn't tell you was also their first marriage and their second marriage. It was because of Reengaged that their third marriage together, only with each other, is the one that really worked, because what they started to find is that the problem is not my partner. The problem is usually me. And if I work on me, my partner, maybe her problems or his problems were not quite as bad as I envisioned.
And of course, that's a part of Scripture. As far as it concerns you, be at peace with all men. It doesn't say fix them and I'll take care. So, but the hardest thing to do is look in the mirror and say, what part of the problem are you? And
very true.
It takes a frank discussion. We talk about that in class. Okay, let's just say he or she is all that and does all these things. What part of the problem are you?
0. It's all his fault, all her fault.
And it's just not, because we're all flawed people.
I think when you look at the marriage issue too, and we'll get back to the other thing here in a minute, but what I see is this: there's been a lot of adults that have criticized the millennials that, they don't have any loyalty, they don't finish things, or whatever it may be. And to me, I look and I've said, boy, that's pretty hypocritical as an adult to be criticizing perhaps your children about this if you've copped out on your marriage. I mean, they've seen this from a personal perspective. Mom and dad decided to call it quits. And what I look at, here's my perspective, is to say this: marriage is for the children. because children should be raised in an intact home with his or her natural mother and father. In almost every circumstance, there may be a few, exceptions. We'll go, but that's the general principle. The best interest of the child is to be raised in an intact family with his or her natural mother and father, knowing them both, hopefully surrounded by strong extended family, and hopefully by a society that supports the value of marriage and family. So marriage is for the children. Divorce is for usually an adult. Maybe both adults sometimes, maybe just one adult, unilateral, no-fault divorce. One adult can call it quits. But when it comes down to it, marriage is for the children, divorce is for adults. We should be putting children before adults.